Ever wondered how to make the perfect steak dinner? Well, let's embark on this culinary journey together, where we'll delve into the art of crafting the ultimate Gordon Ramsay-style steak dinner. The secret to a mouth-watering, show-stopping steak dinner lies in three key factors: the cut of the steak, the seasoning, and the cooking technique. Choosing the right cut of steak is the first important step. Ribeye, sirloin, or filet mignon, each cut has its own unique flavor profile and texture. The ribeye, for instance, is marbled with fat that melts during cooking, creating a tender and flavorful steak. Sirloin, on the other hand, is leaner, but when cooked right, is incredibly juicy. And then there's the filet mignon, the tenderest of them all, a meat lover's dream. So remember, when you're at the butcher's, ask for advice on the best cut depending on your taste and cooking preferences. Now let's talk about seasoning. It's not just about adding flavor, but also about enhancing the steak's natural taste. A good seasoning doesn't need to be complex. Sometimes, all you need is a generous pinch of salt and a crackling of fresh black pepper. It's crucial to season your steak just before it hits the pan, as salt can draw out moisture if left on for too long, potentially ruining that gorgeous sear we're aiming for. Lastly, the cooking technique. This, my friends, can make or break your steak dinner. Achieving a perfect sear, that beautiful, appetizing caramelization, requires a smoking hot pan and a good amount of patience. The steak should be cooked on high heat for a few minutes on each side, and then allowed to rest before slicing. Now that we've selected and seasoned our steak, it's time to bring on the heat. As Gordon Ramsay says, cooking a good steak is about respect for the ingredient. So, let's show this steak some respect and make it the star of our dinner. A hot pan and a bit of oil are all you need to get that perfect sear. Let's turn up the heat, shall we? Grab your trusty pan and set it on the stove. Crank up the heat and let it get nice and hot. Remember, a hot pan is essential to get that beautiful, delectable crust on your steak. Now here's where the magic happens. Drizzle in some olive oil. You'll know it's ready when it starts to shimmer and smoke. That's the signal the stage is perfectly set for the star of our show, the steak. Place the steak in the pan with a satisfying sizzle. Let it sear undisturbed for a few minutes on each side. This process creates a gorgeous caramelization, locking in the juices and intensifying the flavor. And there you have it. Your steak is now beautifully seared, boasting a tantalizing crust that's just begging to be savored. With our steak beautifully seared, let's shift our focus to a side dish that's a match made in culinary heaven. Nothing complements a steak better than crispy, golden fries. Now let's dive into the art of creating these delightful accompaniments. We'll start with our potatoes. The secret to perfect fries lies in their cut. You want to slice them into thin, uniform strips. This not only ensures they cook evenly, but it also gives them a lovely, consistent shape. Now, onto the frying. We're striving for a beautiful balance here. Crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside. To achieve this, we'll need our oil hot, but not smoking. Then, in go our potato strips. It's a sizzling symphony as they meet the oil, beginning their transformation into crispy fries. Patience is key here. Rushing could lead to undercooked or overly browned fries. So let them take their time, dancing in the oil until they reach that perfect shade of golden brown. As they reach their crispy peak, it's time to lift them from the oil and let them drain. This step ensures we're not serving up soggy fries. Finally, the seasoning. While the fries are still hot, sprinkle over your choice of seasoning. Salt is a classic, but don't be afraid to experiment. A little smoked paprika or garlic powder can elevate your fries to a whole new level. As our fries turn golden brown, let's return to our resting steak. Resting your steak is a crucial step that ensures juicy, tender meat. After the sizzling and searing, it's tempting to dive right in. But patience, my friends, is key to the perfect steak. When we allow the steak to rest, we're giving it the chance to reabsorb and redistribute the juices that have been pushed to the center during cooking. Think of it like a well-deserved break after a high-intensity workout. The steak, having been through the heat, now needs some downtime to recollect itself. This resting period, usually lasting about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the size of your steak, results in a more tender, flavorful bite. But wait, we're not quite done. Once the steak has had its rest, we're going to slice it. Remember to slice against the grain. This shortens the muscle fibers, making the steak easier to chew. Our steak is rested and sliced, and it's time for the finishing touch. The moment of truth, serving our perfect steak dinner. To begin, we have our beautifully seared and rested steak, rich in flavor and tantalizingly tender. Now, it's time to elevate this dish to Gordon Ramsay levels. We take a generous dollop of our homemade herb butter, a symphony of fresh herbs and creamy butter, and place it directly on top of the hot steak. The heat from the steak will gently melt the butter, allowing it to seep into the meat, infusing it with a burst of herbaceous flavor. This is not just any steak. This is a steak that sings with every bite, a steak that dances on the palate and leaves a lasting impression. But what's a steak without its trusty sidekick? Enter our crispy fries, golden and crunchy on the outside, fluffy and soft on the inside. They're the perfect contrast to our juicy steak, adding a delightful textural element to the dish. Arrange them neatly on the side of the plate, ready to be savored with every bite of steak. And there you have it, a perfect steak dinner. Every element on this plate works in harmony to deliver a truly unforgettable dining experience. So go ahead, dig in, and let the flavors transport you. Enjoy your meal and don't forget to subscribe for more delicious recipes.